over to Rob, who's going to tell us his big clap to everybody. I don't know if I can do claps. Not sure exactly how to do it, but I'll big congrats. All right, so with that, I would like to now hand over to Rob, who's going to tell us his incredible story. He has done this before to Geotabbers many moons ago, and it's a lovely story. And handing over to you, Rob. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, everybody. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Rob. My wife, Sharon, and I, who is able to join me today, we live in Oviedo, Florida, and I've been with Geotab 8 years this month. I'm very glad to be with you all today, and I know a lot of speakers say that, but in my case, I'm really glad to be here because if you were to believe the statistics and what the doctors told me, I should have died a while ago. All right. Okay. So I'd like to share a journey.
Every time I would.
Are you guys getting that echo?
Try to advance the slide, it would turn my.
Yeah, we're hearing the echo, Rob. So I think maybe just mute it.
Okay, I think we got it.
Okay.
All right. So I'd like to share my journey through a stem cell transplant with you today, and a few things that I've learned along the way that can apply to kind of both personal and work situations. But most importantly, I want each of you to consider making a decision that you probably didn't plan on making when you woke up this morning. So at the end of
Yeah, but
every time I try to advance the slide, it turns the sound back on. So, all right, I'll just wink at you. All right, okay. So at the end of 2011, I accepted a job transfer. It was a welcome move as we were very happy to leave the cold winters of Michigan for sunny Florida. But a few months later, in May of 2012, I broke out in an itchy red rash that started around my abdomen. And this is when we first got introduced to the healthcare phenomenon known as diagnose and adios. So my local doctors had no idea what the cause was. One thought I was allergic to our laundry detergent. Another thought it was a food allergy. They put me on steroids to try to control the condition. That would help for a little bit, but then the itchy red rash would come back even worse. It looked like I had a bad sunburn. Next one. My skin started peeling off until I was raw, and I would swell up from head to toe. I got infection after infection, staph infections, MRSA, pneumonia. I was a frequent guest at the local emergency rooms. I was unable to perspire, even if it was like 95 degrees outside, and I constantly felt cold. We finally decided to set up an appointment with a dermatologist at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, about 2.5 hours from our home. There I had dozens of skin biopsies, all of which proved inconclusive. Now, during this period, my wife Sharon had spent nearly every waking moment researching each of my symptoms and read every medical publication available to her. She found a very scary diagnosis that seemed to fit exactly what was happening, an extraordinarily rare cancer called Sézary syndrome, a type of lymphoma that affects the blood, skin, and lymph nodes. Only 1 in 4 million people get this type of lymphoma. Lucky me. Next one. After months and months of testing, I was diagnosed in November of 2013 with stage 4 Sézary syndrome, a variant of cutaneous T-cell lymphoma. Yes, the exact disease that Sharon had suspected all along over a year ago. Now, if you're unfamiliar with cancer diagnosis, stage 4 is basically a fatal prognosis. We were told that I had a 25% chance of living up to 5 years. With this disease, it's not the cancer itself that kills you. It's that Sézary attacks your immune system, and most people that have it die from some type of infection. Needless to say, our family was devastated with the news of the diagnosis. We met with our lawyer to update our will and updated our financial plan to prepare for the unthinkable. Next one. Sharon was a rock throughout all this and became a foundation of knowledge on a disease that even most doctors have never heard of. I have no doubt she's the reason I'm alive today. Since there is no cure for Sézary syndrome, an allogeneic stem cell transplant was my best hope for a lasting remission. We let the doctors know that was the path we wanted to follow. So I was put on the stem cell donor registry in January of 2014 because my only brother was not a match. In fact, 70% of the patients who need a transplant do not have a matching donor in their family. The key to a good outcome of the bone marrow or stem cell transplant is finding a donor whose DNA markers closely match yours. My one chance at life was finding an unrelated donor. Now, at the same time, my oncologist started me on a 5-month regimen of chemotherapy to clear the cancer cells in my blood. I finished my chemotherapy treatment that May and was pronounced in blood remission. In early July of 2014, we received a call letting us know that a donor match had been found. We did not know anything about this anonymous donor other than he was a 30-year-old male, but that did not stop the fact that we were eternally grateful for this person's selfless act, because we could not go forward without this first step of securing a willing stem cell donor. Now, I was almost ready for my stem cell transplant, but I needed one more treatment regimen to get rid of any remaining cancer cells in my skin. So I had something called total skin electron beam radiation, 4 days a week for 8 weeks. So basically, you stand behind a plexiglass cage in your underwear and you get blasted by radiation from that enormous machine you see in the photo. I lost all my hair, but it cleared my skin of any remaining cancer cells in preparation for the transplant. Next one. On October 2nd, 2014, I was admitted to Shands Cancer Hospital in Gainesville to begin receiving the chemo and the drugs that would be given over the next several days to kill off my own immune system in preparation to accept new donor stem cells that would hopefully bring me back to life. Some of these drugs made me really sick, but as awful as I felt, I'd get up out of bed and walk laps around the nursing unit, my IV pole in tow. Next one. Getting exercise is necessary both physically and psychologically. I'd also get up each morning and shower and get fully dressed because I felt it was important to help me feel like it was a normal day and not another sick in bed day. Next one. So October 7th was day 0, transplant day. It's also known as your rebirth date because when you get a stem cell transplant, you are really getting born again. Sharon and the nurses planned a rebirthday party in my room, complete with presents, balloons, and my favorite cake, German chocolate. And yes, I celebrate 2 birthdays every year. Next one. Our children, my sister-in-law from Arizona, my brother, and all the nurses were there to help celebrate and watch as the new donor stem cells were infused through the catheter in my chest. We prayed that these healthy new donor cells would give me and our family a renewed life together. Next. The days ahead would not be easy by any means. I had to be monitored very carefully, and I'd get blood transfusions, platelets, or be taken for an x-ray at all hours of the day and night. But I found that you never know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have. I keep this photo on my phone always. Whenever I think I'm having a bad day, I look at this picture and remember how far I've come. Next one. You know, I've tried to apply some of the life lessons that I've experienced dealing with a significant challenge like cancer in my working life here at Geotab. Lessons like resilience, empathy, adaptability, all of which are also important business skills when trying to close big deals. Beating cancer involves facing and moving past numerous setbacks. Being resilient comes in very handy in sales because rejection comes with the territory, but you have to be able to persist in the face of adversity. Also, experiencing a personal hardship can foster a deep sense of empathy. I found this to be extremely valuable in being able to understand and connect with people on a more personal level, which helps build lasting relationships. Navigating a cancer journey requires you to adapt to new circumstances and realities. And a good sales executive has to be able to adapt strategies to meet changing market conditions or customer needs. And finally, effective communication with healthcare providers and your loved ones is really important during cancer treatment. And those same skills are directly transferable to business because persuasive communication is essential. Next one. When I was admitted to the hospital, I made a bet with the social worker that I would be discharged before the typical 30-day stay for stem cell transplant recipients. I'm not sure why I made the bet other than it's just part of my goal-oriented mentality. But on day 17, after my transplant, the medical team released me. I know that my positive attitude and daily exercise helped a lot, but I was far from being out of the woods. My immune system was still very fragile. We couldn't be more than 30 minutes away from the transplant center for another 3 months in case of an emergency. So going home, unfortunately, was not an option for us. Sharon and I found an apartment within a few minutes walk of the hospital, and that's where we lived for the next few months. Next slide. My health continued to improve over the next several weeks. On day 70, just a week before Christmas, we were given the all clear to move home. And that was the best Christmas gift I could have ever gotten. Although we'd be making weekly 5-hour trips to Gainesville, we were overjoyed to be living back in our own house. When I left there several months before, I didn't know if I would ever be home again. We had a celebration on January 15th because that was day 100 since my stem cell transplant. Day 100 is a turning point in the recovery process because that's when the greatest risk for critical side effects has passed so that new blood cells are being made. I had fully transformed from my former blood type of O positive to the donor's blood type A positive. And also my DNA changed to that of my donors. Next slide. We really wanted to know more about this Superman donor that saved my life. But you have to wait a year before trying to make contact with your donor. So when I hit that 1-year birthday, we submitted the request and we were thrilled when we got an email from Clint Weaver, my donor. Next slide. Turns out he was in the Air Force and had done several tours of duty in the Middle East. He donated through the military's Tribute to Life recruitment effort that is a partner with the National Marrow Donor Program. Clint said that it was just the right thing to do. And it was so simple, why wouldn't you do it? Next slide. We got the chance to thank Clint and his family personally when we met them on Easter Sunday, 2016. It was an emotional day, as you might expect. Our wives were crying like babies. Clint felt like the brother I had never met. In fact, some people say we look like we could be brothers, which I guess makes sense since we got the same DNA now. Needless to say, the Weavers are part of our extended family, and we visit each other at every opportunity. Next slide. So when you woke up this morning, did you ask yourself, I'm going to do something today that's going to save somebody's life? Probably not. Well, good news, Geotabbers. It's easier than you thought. Like Clint said, it's so simple, why wouldn't you do it? In fact, it's as easy as swabbing your cheek with a Q-tip. And it takes just a few minutes. Next slide. So when it comes to matching DNA, a patient's ethnic background is important in predicting the likelihood of finding a match. This is because DNA markers used in stem cell matching are inherited. Some ethnic groups have more complex tissue types than others. So a person's best chance of finding a donor may be with someone of the same ethnic background, which is why with Geotab's diverse group of employees, you are the ideal demographic. Now there's one catch, you need to be fairly young and in good health. That's because patients with donors from younger donors have fewer post-transplant complications. So in Canada, you have to be between the ages of 17 and 35. In the US, the age criteria is between 18 and 40. But if you're over the age limit,
just give me a
you can
little bit,
still
like,
make a huge
almost
difference. Talk to your children, your nieces, your nephews about joining the stem cell registry. Today,
It's like what
August
you are
14th,
to
in
Uncle
Canada
or
alone,
Oliver and,
there are
Isaiah.
924 people waiting to find a matched donor so they can get their stem cell transplant. Sadly, some of them are going to die waiting for a donor. Next slide. We're going to make joining the registry as easy as possible for you. For those here with us in Oakville today, Alicia from Canadian Blood Services is here to provide you swabbing kits and to get you signed up on the stem cell donor registry immediately. It'll take just a few minutes, or you can take a kit home and share it with your eligible friends and family. Now, if you're remote in Canada, scan this QR code, and it's going to take you to the site where you can enroll that way. In the US, use the QR code on the right-hand side of the screen, or you can text Geotab Cares to 61474. If you're outside of North America, we're going to send out a website link where you can find the stem cell donor registry in your country. We'll also make sure all this information is available and sent out after the broadcast. And of course, feel free to contact me directly if you have other questions. Now, some of you OGs, that's original Geotabbers, might remember that I told this story 7 years ago when Geotab was a much smaller company. And some of you joined the registry that day, and that's fantastic. But today, with 2,200 employees of all varied ethnicities, we have the chance to make a monumental impact on people whose only hope for life is to find a matched stem cell donor. Please make the choice to join the registry today. It's such an easy thing to do to save someone's life, like Clint saved mine. Thanks, and back to you, Neil.
Thanks, Rob. That's a very touching story, and you're an inspiration to all of us here at Geotab. It's a very difficult thing to go through, and your strength and resilience is just phenomenal. And I think it's really good of you to go out and to try and help build up this database and get folks to donate. I have one question for you. If somebody has signed a donor card, so when they die, they donate, is that possible to be used by the stem cell for stem cell transplant, or does the person have to actually be living in order to donate?
I mean, because we have a media lady
The
now,
donor
I
needs to
think we
be
can use
alive,
six to
for
come
sure.
and do like, Threat Locker
Okay.
gets employed.
So it's not
sign
like
up
another
for it,
organ
like, we put the
donation
whole
where you
thing
can
on.
donate your organ, like if you pass away when you're young or something, that they can use your bone marrow.
No, it just doesn't work that way. Now they do have what's known as cord blood transplants. So that's a situation where if a baby is born and you can have their cord blood kind of banked, and and the cord blood contains those stem cells, and that's that can be kind of frozen and then possibly used later on. But I'm almost positive that if someone's passed, you can't use their stem cells. That wouldn't work. And
Okay.
Alicia with Canadian Blood Services nodding her head, so that must be correct.
Okay, that's good to know. So that's what makes it really important to get these donations going. Somebody did point out in the Q&A that the Canadian QR code is not working, but maybe we can figure that out. We're going to send the details out anyway for people.
Our
Okay.
CFO is South African. So
All right, folks. Well, listen, that's really good town hall, and I think a fantastic way to end it. And I just urge the rest of Geotabbers to speak to my kids, but on this issue. But I urge the rest of the Geotabbers to seriously consider this. You can change the lives of people in a profound way, and it's certainly something wonderful to do for humanity and for others. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you again at the next town hall.
I was amazed how many people picked up on that piece of it.
Yeah, 1 second, buddy. I mean, because most people, especially at work,